Hi, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning, Jeffrey. Right. A couple people text me about the code. So, I think they're contacting Basia to get it.
Okay.
For you,
Sun is shining, a little bit chilly, I think, out there.
yeah, well, yeah, that's nice. Yesterday was a little bit rainy, and I kept everyone inside, which in some ways was a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, the weather's been it was warmer, now it's cooler. It's sort of going through the same stuff we are, I think. Eh?
I was going to say it's all over the place, just like our emotions in some ways are.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Minutes. We'll give it one more minute and then we will get started.
No rush.
Heather, I love your background.
I was just thinking that. Yeah.
It's not my hair, but yes, the background is okay. Yeah, it's my angel wings.
It's beautiful.
Cute.
Yeah. It's a green screen, so it does some funny stuff with how you look as well. My daughter is, she's working on her schoolwork, so I'm stuck in my bedroom working on my office stuff.
Okay, that's okay. I used to work in TV, so I remember green screens.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I have a green screen as well downstairs, like a real green screen, but this is the Zoom green screen.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to get started. We have a smaller group. I know there's a couple more people coming on. I know we have a smaller group today, but I always say who's supposed to be on the call will be on the call. That's
absolutely.
And sometimes even a small group, some great aha moments will come out of it. So I want to thank everyone who's on this call. Jeffrey, once again, thank you for giving us your time. These calls have been incredible every Tuesday. I feel they have been great to help people ground themselves, maybe have some perspective in what's going on, and kind of help them and guide them in how they move through this time as well.
It's important that we support each other in times like this because there's just a lot of stuff going on, and a lot of times people think they can handle it on their own, and they do, and then it takes something like this that's like pulling the rug out from underneath us, and it's like we've got to support each other because even myself, I noticed the ups and the downs, and so support is important. So thank you, Mary, for offering this to the community.
Absolutely. And I agree. I think when we're going through something like this, we all have to come together. Can you imagine if we didn't and we were trying to do this all by ourselves? I can't even imagine what would be going on for some people. It would be horrible, horrible. So I want to start off, Jeffrey, I have a question. And this has been coming up. I don't know if it's because we're going into the fifth week. We're in the fifth week now. As I say it, your cup of with the
my joy
I know comes up because what I'm going to say is not that much joyful right now.
No, that's why I took that one out of the cupboard today.
So my question to you is, and I was talking to one of my directors, and she said she had to go into Longo's yesterday, and it was Easter, and she just wanted to just pick up a few things for the family. But it was no different than before COVID-19. People were in there. No one was 6 feet apart. Even though they had a lineup outside, it was packed. That she even went to customer service and said, what the heck is going on here? So and yesterday with Easter, I saw one of my neighbors across the street had another couple who came over with the baby in the stroller, and because one was on the porch and one was right in front of each other, it irritated me. And I know people are getting that. It irritated me that you hear about countries who've kind of flatlined it and they're taking it seriously. And I'll be honest, the area I live on, if I would have gone onto the main street, there would be people strolling on the street. So this is my frustration, and I know it's other people's frustration. Others don't care. They're like, what's the big deal? Can we talk about this? What do you
Yeah,
think?
that's interesting. Not that I watch the news, but every once in a while I try to get a bit of a trend of what's going on. And I think this newest trend in places in the world is this backlash where they're resisting the social distancing, and people are saying enough is enough,
Yeah.
and governments can't restrict us. And so it's really very interesting because we're getting a certain amount of conflict between our beliefs about social distancing and other people's beliefs about social distancing. And I had a client yesterday said that his girlfriend and her parents came over to his place, and his father called up and threatened to call the police. And so there's definitely this tension about what we're supposed to be doing, and those of us that follow the rules to the letter of the law and those that don't. And I just think that tension and stress is doing us harm. I think it's really important to look at your own well-being, and um, if you get stressed as to being close to someone and you shouldn't be, I think you are doing harm to your immunity system. I got this faith that I really believe that what's going to happen to me is going to happen to me. I'm not saying I'm not going to get it. I'm just saying that whatever happens, I'll handle it. If you look at statistics and the number of people that get the virus and the number of people that get better from it, it's pretty high. So the question is, how do we feel about it, and how do we feel about imposing our views on someone else? It's it's really interesting that you asked that question, because a couple of times yesterday in coaching, what's come up is differing beliefs and how we handle that. And I think we're not headed in the right direction, because if you don't believe what I believe, you're wrong, and vice versa. I think that this is an opportunity for us to come together. Different people believe different things. This one's a little bit difficult because your beliefs could affect my well-being.
Right.
And so it's complicated. I understand that. But so I don't know if I don't know if I can really give you an answer. All I would suggest is that you have to be comfortable with what's happening. If you're in Longos and people aren't social distancing, and you don't feel comfortable, get out. Put your
Yeah.
groceries back and get out. But to expect everybody to do it the way I do it, to make sure that we all follow the letter of the law, is going to be very difficult. We've got over 7.5 billion people on the planet, and everybody thinks differently. Different countries are handling this in different ways. I think it's an opportunity from a spiritual perspective to understand the diversity of opinions and decide how you're going to show up in this diversity of opinions. I don't think the answer is to trying to get one opinion and everybody to follow suit. I don't think humanity was invented that way or was created that way so that we all think the same. So how do we coexist when so many people have different opinions? What do you think of that, Mary?
Yeah, I get that. Absolutely. Great answer, Jeffrey. But I think I'm still, I think I'm a little bit frustrated with it, because I understand, but I really believe there's also a lesson for us to, with our differences, to come together and make sure we keep everyone healthy and safe. And we've seen countries where, statistics have shown that the ones who have done social distancing correctly have flatlined it or close to flatlining it. And the ones who haven't and are still going out and thinking it won't happen to me or whatever that may be, are not.
Well, yes, I understand that, but you did say we want to learn to respect the diversity of opinions. Well, what does that mean when the opinion's different than ours? Okay, what does it mean if we think their opinion is wrong? and those that don't believe social distancing is the answer, and we believe that social distancing is the answer, how do we respect them? Okay, I mean, we all share this space. You know, I think this is an opportunity for the bigger question. When this is over, how are we going to handle the diversity of cultural beliefs, of religious beliefs, et cetera, right? It's really difficult if you are, if you really think that it's about right and wrong. So how do we share the planet with someone who doesn't believe what we believe? And I'm not pretending to have the answer. I just think the universe is giving us an opportunity to ask these deep questions.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that social distancing and respecting, you know, the laws that are coming down now is just the microcosm of the bigger question when this is over, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's now, you know, talk of what's going to happen with trade, and we're realizing that different countries don't want to share what they have. And so when this is over, do we go back to becoming isolationist? Do we go back to not trading freely? I don't want to pretend that I have all the answers. I think the questions are really important. And I think you ask a really interesting question that I don't have an answer for, but maybe we need to have some dialogue. What do we do when people don't follow the rules? It's interesting. You know, before COVID-19, if people didn't follow the rules, you expected the police to enforce the rules, and we didn't get involved. But now that it's our health, all of a sudden, if you don't follow the rules,
Yes.
okay, so how do we handle that? How do we share this planet and yet respect the diversity of opinions?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting when you say that, because this is the only area that frustrates me, that we're so different, and not everyone is following the rules. Like in business, I don't follow any rules. I am like, you know, like I believe, and everyone has the right to believe in what they believe in. I believe everyone should be able to love who they want to love. Like, so but in this case,
mm-hmm. They're making it personal, aren't they? Yeah.
That is my challenge, because it's people's health, and all I, you know, and there's a part of me that says, can we just lock it down for a month? Can we just lock it down so we can get out of this? We can go back to, in a better way, working, getting our kids out there, living. It won't be the same as it was before. We know that, but you know, and that is my struggle.
Right, but we're making an assumption that that by doing so we will get what you say, and there is no guarantees for that. You know, maybe this is the bigger question of how do we become more comfortable with the unknown? Because we want this definitive. If we lock down for a month, it'll be fine. But then you get people saying, "Oh, it could be 3 months, it could be 6 months." Do we want to live in isolation for the rest of our lives? I don't know, right? And then that really gets people aggravated and upset.
Yeah, that part.
Right.
Yeah, I get that now. Like you kind of shifted me. I get that. I think people are seeing beyond today and are saying, well, I don't want to live like this. I'm going to kind of make it work for me.
Right. To me, you know, what I'm working on, and I truly believe, because of my deep spiritual beliefs, mm-hmm. that I'm capable of staying healthy. I'm capable of building up my immune system. I'm capable, you know, I've had colds and the flu over the last number of years. I have it for 2 or 3 days. So instead of looking at everyone else and you know, there's this whole question that, you know, I believe I read somewhere where about 25 people in a nursing home passed away. So we're really being faced with these questions of morality and how we take care of the aged and all of that. And I think it's important that we open up our perspective to look at the bigger questions beyond just the fear of, is this going to get me and am I going to die? You know, if you can let go of that,
I agree.
If I get it, all right, you know, I mean, I'm going to be 68 next month. I'm either going to get through it or I'm going to die, but I don't want to live in fear of that. I mean, death is one of the great fears that most of humanity has. And so when we have a virus like this that is, has a fatality rate, then we're getting to the deepest fear of humankind. And, but again, if you look at the statistics, the number of people that pass away, and there are all kinds of people on social media saying more people die by this than by this.
And that's another thing, again, I think I'm on a reflective day. I don't know, I woke up with a headache, so I'm being reflective today. So it's something that you just brought up is, why are we posting more of who has passed than, as you said, the statistics are higher that people will survive? I'm not saying don't post about, people are posting and saying, be careful, look, this person has passed away. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's more of that happening than saying, like I know someone who got it, actually their sons in the family, and now are fine.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we not posting about things like that? Why aren't we posting about, it's almost like the news, right? The news tells us about all the bad news out there, but they don't tell us all the good news out there.
I mean, have we ever posted the number of people that pass away by different things every day, right? I mean, has anybody really looked to see how many people a day die from cancer, heart, suicide? We don't do that. And the reason is because we're not going to be able to catch cancer in the grocery store. So I think this is bringing up our vulnerability. This is bringing up the fact that you can give me something that harms me, right? And it's kind of interesting because, from the conscious community, we want to create more oneness. In H.U.B, you're always working on bringing the group together.
Yeah.
And yet this virus is driving us apart. It's like, don't come so close. Where was I? Somewhere where I was in Ambrosia, and I asked the guy a question, and he came really close to me, and it was like, it's like I had to back away. And it's like, I love people contact. I love hugging people. And here I'm finding myself, it's like, don't come so close. You don't have a mask, and, answer my question from 6 feet away. And then I said to myself, who am I? What's going on here? And so I think that there's purpose in this. There's purpose in this to be reflective, as you said that you were. There's so much opportunity for us to look at who we are and how we react, and then decide whether that's acceptable or not.
And that's a great point that you make, because I think people are I've seen it for myself as well, that who I was before COVID. And as I said, I love people. My mother always said I would have a career, that I would be talking on the phone to people. I do. And now I'm, the same thing, be careful, don't stay close to me. I mean, I go out and it's like, I don't want to even make eye contact. I want to go in, get what I need, and get out. And that is hard for me, a little difficult, a person who loves people contact and speaking to people, and watching how different you are in those, how we are today. For some
what's going to happen, and what's going to happen when it's over? Are we, the brain is really very, very interesting. And when, you get the green flag and it's all clear, are we still going to be tentative? I mean, I'm a hugger. I love hugging. I can just imagine when this is over, am I tentative about giving someone a hug?
I thought of that too. I thought that people, yeah.
Yeah. And so again, I'm just a big proponent of taking some time. We have so much time to reflect on these bigger philosophical life questions.
Yeah.
If this was a do-over, what would we be thinking about in terms of creating new ways, new means, new morals, new philosophies when this is over? And in order to do so, we do have to get over that adrenaline rush of fight or flight, that fear that we're going to be taken down by this. If you look at the statistics, it's 0.5 to 1% of the people that get it, right? And so yes, I understand us being fearful that we could be that 0.5 or 1%, but we could be that percentage of people that die in a car crash, that die in an airplane crash.
Yep.
For
Yep.
whatever reason, I don't think we have that sense of fear that we do for this. So I think that there's an opportunity for us to
And
look
why
at ourselves.
don't we? And why don't we, Jeffrey? What is it that's happening? Because that's a great point what you just made, is that you're right. They say, look how many people, could, statistics to get into a car crash. And yet we get into our car day after day and even go for a nice drive if it's a nice day. Why?
On the crowded highways in the
Yeah.
GTA, which,
Yeah.
and look around. Okay. It's interesting. We'll go into Longos and we'll be concerned you're not 6 feet away, but we'll be on the 401 and you see these crazy people zigzagging in and out. And for some reason or other, you're not nearly as petrified as you are. I think part of it is we feel more comfortable with the enemy we know than the enemy we don't know. And I just channeled something from Shaltazar last week that talked about COVID-19 being the invisible enemy. And I think that's part of it as well. It goes back to that unknown. We are so uncomfortable as a human race with the unknown, right? Yeah. We're just very uncomfortable. So on the 401, we can watch that guy weaving, we can drive defensively, and we feel okay. But with this invisible virus, somebody could be giving it to us and we don't even know. And I think that's what frightens us.
Yeah, I think it's also as humans, we're used to trying to control situations. And this is out of our control. And it's interesting, I posted today something, be grateful. What did I put? I said, be present and be grateful for the things around you. And yet that means being in the moment and not worrying about what's happening tomorrow, what's happening the next day. And I think as easy as it was to post that, I don't think it's as easy for everyone to do it.
Of course. It's so interesting now that we don't have certain things that we took for granted. We miss them. And yet when they were occurring, we were complaining about them and it was just old hat. So again, I can't emphasize enough, there's such an opportunity to not only look at ourselves, but look at humanity. Okay, this is, I posted something on social media. I don't do it that often, but it reminded me of when the kids were growing up and they misbehaved, you gave them a timeout. And it's just, yeah, and it's like the universe is giving us a huge timeout. It's time for us to behave, right? And so if someone is not social distancing, what is appropriate behavior to tell them, right? It's sort of like, it's like, let's not complain and bitch. Let's look at decency and the fact that not everybody believes this. I mean, we could say the statistics are there, but if you research the statistics, you're finding a whole bunch of diversity. You're now starting to surface that the vaccine dilemma. People, the anti-vacciners are saying, oh, the vaccine is not the only answer. And what's so interesting is the rudeness that people have to opposing views.
Yeah, and I've seen it on Facebook. Someone will put a post up or they're doing something and someone will chime in and say, I don't think that's correct. Like you can just feel the energy off of some people's comments.
Right. I gotta believe the universe is kind of chuckling, saying, look at these little children. They can't seem to get along. They're arguing, they're fearful, they're trying to control. And we need to surface this poor behavior so that we can correct it. We need to be able to look at how we show up, how we behave, and come up with new ways. This is all about new ways. This is all about change.
That's so interesting you say that, because from the moment that I came on the call and asked this question, I could tell how frustrated I was. I had a headache, and that kind of has been lifted because, as you said, I've seen that there could be another perspective as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And how do we share those perspectives? If you watch on social media, you don't see the politeness, right? It's so easy to hide behind, and a lot of people on social media, it's interesting, they don't even use their right name. I never can get this Instagram thing because it's like, who is that person? It's like, you know, what is I am free? Who's I am free? It's like, you know, I'm an old guy. It's like, I always put my name. I always put who I am. I'm not ashamed of being identified. And yet we're saying these things behind these pseudonyms, and we're not interacting the way we should. And it's really interesting that you brought that up, how we're really misbehaving in terms of those that are following the rules and those that aren't, and how upset we are with the people that aren't following the rules, right? You know, if this wasn't affecting us and you walk down, you know, the Danforth, and people were doing rude things, and it wasn't around COVID-19, we would cross the street and not really care.
Yes. Yeah.
Today, this could affect me, so your poor behavior needs to be confronted. And we have to, again, you know, look at what we're doing and look at how we can change it. And we need to own responsibility for it.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Does anyone have any questions so far from Jeffrey? I just want to make sure I open it up to everyone. If not, don't worry about it. We'll continue. But I just want to make sure I give everyone that space. Michelle.
I have a question. This morning, that's why I was a bit late to join the call, to Home Depot to do this curbside pickup from an order that I ordered on Saturday, because it takes about 2 days. Mm-hmm. Anyhow, I was sitting in my car because you're supposed to sit in your car and wait for them to come. And another guy got out of his car and went to talk to this lady because she had a puppy, and the puppy was 9 weeks old. So cute, which it was cute. But I got like angry. I don't know. It really bothered me that he was talking to that woman. I guess I felt like, how come I can't talk to anybody?
Mm-hmm. Good question.
You know, that's kind of how I felt.
Right.
And they were having this conversation, and I think I felt like, hey, how come you're allowed to and I'm not allowed to go talk to somebody? That's how I felt. That's how I felt.
Yeah. No, thank you, Michelle, for sharing that. And I'll be honest, I would feel the same way. So that's what I'm saying, Jeffrey, is it's not that, for me, it's not that, and again, Michelle, I don't know if this is the same for you, it wasn't that we have different views, is the part of some people where it's like every day, it's like no big deal. It's like that's something we would do before COVID-19, go up to someone and if they had a cute puppy.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But they were keeping their distance though. He didn't go to the puppy. He didn't go pet the puppy. They were keeping their distance.
So what bothered you?
It's because he got out of his car and went and talked to her, even though they were keeping their distance, because you were supposed to stay in your car. That's what they said. Stay in your car, and then they'll bring it to you, and open your trunk and they'll throw it in.
So Jeffrey, so here's Michelle following the rules of what they're telling her to do when you go and pick up something at Home Depot, and she's doing her part.
Yeah.
And here's someone else who is not following the rules of that company to go pick up their product.
Yeah, so it's basically the same thing you were talking about.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's interesting because there were rule breakers before this, and maybe, just maybe, this is about the fact that we are starting to resent being told what to do. We are resenting being controlled. You know, as you're talking, Michelle, I grew up in the 60s, and the 60s were kind of wild times. And, you know, they were Kent State, the Vietnam War, and you know, all the protesters, because the young people were tired of government control and being told what to do. And maybe this is spawning this new era of rebellion. You know, my wife said this morning, maybe we're going to have a revolution, a rebellion. And maybe we will, but hopefully a peaceful one, hopefully one that is nonviolent. But I think we need to be stirred up. And I think it's important that you look within yourself as to that anger and why we're feeling the way we're feeling, because we have an opportunity to redefine society and the way society operates. And, you know, if any of you have kids or grandkids, those younger generations, they don't think the same way. And what kind of world do we want to give them? Do we want to tell them that they have to do it the same way that we did it? So I think the question is, you know, Michelle, how comfortable would you feel getting out of the car? And if the rules, you know, if you believe that those rules are too stringent, if you believe that you would be okay, is it okay to break that rule? We are moving towards, in some areas, very much like a police state. Now, we don't see it that way because it's for our good, right? I mean, we do believe that the government is doing that. But, you know, in other times, police states would do the things that are being done now, not for the reason of a virus. So how do we feel when our fundamental freedoms are being broached? Do we care enough about the good of the all versus the individual? Like what I would suggest is when you get frustrated, come home and start journaling and asking yourself these difficult questions, these questions of philosophy and humanity and you know, is it fair? Should the police have come and told that person that he can't get out of his car? I don't know. I really, you know, and it's okay that we don't know. Yeah. It's the discussion and the conversation that's important. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, some of that conversation and discussion is a little bit rude, a little bit confrontational, and a little bit bad-mannered. So how can we have a decent conversation? And maybe we can. If you look at all of the big changes in society over the millennial, you know, over time, it is that confrontation that creates change. I'm just a non-confrontational guy, so I'm just hoping it's not too confrontational. But that confrontation, that challenge is not a bad thing, because otherwise we're not going to change the way we operate. And if it's true that the universe is giving us a timeout because we've been misbehaving, then we better start looking at our behavior and deciding if it requires change.
So that's great. Great point, Jeffrey. I'm almost thinking, you know, when you're speaking, it's really about all these things that are happening, whether someone, as Michelle said, came out of the car or not. It is to bring it back to ourselves and within to see why these things affect us.
100%. 100%. Again, in that channeling from Sheltazar, they're suggesting that we go within. So why were you feeling angry, Michelle? And forget about it being the other guy. Maybe it's because your freedoms are being curtailed. I don't know, but excellent point, Mary. We all can go within. We all can do the inner work. And as Sheltazar says, when one of us changes, when we change, the whole changes. Mm-hmm. And society and cultures and humanity will not change unless each of us individually change first. And so, you know, and we've talked about this before, self-isolation and quarantine is a great opportunity to go within. And we can't be bored with ourselves. It's really important to look at those feelings. I'm a firm believer that feelings are truth. So look at that anger, let that anger speak to you, let the frustration speak to you. Because those feelings are the key to understanding what you are going through as a human being.
Right.
So Jeffrey, as we now move into the 5th week, we'll be in the 6th week, 7th week, people's emotions are going to change as well. You know, when we started off, I knew people who said, oh, this is a great break in the 1st week. Oh, I got to do, you know, I put up wallpaper that was sitting in my house for a year. So it's people were doing these odd little things in their home that they had left for a while and didn't have time, and now they did. We're in 5th week now. And as I said, we're moving forward. What are some tools that we can take to continue to ground ourselves? Because our emotions are going to change. I mean, who we are on this call, our 5th session, if we are going to fast forward to our 15th session, could be very different.
Of course. You know, it's interesting how some people are getting bored with the routine of self-isolation. And yet, if you looked at them and asked them, what was your routine, you know, before COVID-19? it's like, oh, I got to take the kids here and got to do this. And like we had routines, but we weren't bored because we were busy. And so what we now have is time to reflect. And it's like, okay, great. You know, I did my journaling, I did this, and I'm bored. And once again, I'll go back to the feeling of bored. A lot of people are having to deal with bored. I had to deal with bored as I was growing my practice because I refused to be a do kind of person. I did that for 33 years in the steel business. And so before COVID-19, as I was building my practice, there were days I just had nothing to do, and I had to deal with that boredom. And now, you know, my wife is a bit jealous that I'm so busy and I'm doing things, but that's because I got over that boredom. I went through that, and I made peace with the fact that whether I'm busy or bored. And I have to say, moving from busy to not busy is a difficult shift, right? It's like you're driving on this beautiful trip across the country, and then all of a sudden you stop and there's a rainstorm and you can't go for a couple of days. You kind of have this pent up, I want to get going again. But being able to move through those emotions, being able to navigate the ups and downs of the emotions is an opportunity. I'm a firm believer that we need to be able to say everything we're going through is an opportunity. Okay? It is not happening to me, it is happening for me. And if you take that approach, that everything that we're going through is an opportunity for us to learn and grow, I think that's really, really important.
I agree. I absolutely agree with what you're saying.
Right. The other point I want to make is this is a phenomenal opportunity to get used to change. Okay. I think so many of us are, you know, it's interesting. We have these routines. We bitch and complain about the routines. Okay. I'm talking about prior to COVID-19, but we never really put the energy into making a change that would change that. Okay. And here we are. Okay. Sure. We felt okay in week 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. Right. Okay. We have the power to change. Just because we're not out in the world, we still have the power. We're so fortunate that this happened in a time where technology is what it is.
Yes.
We would not be getting together as a group today, having this conversation, if this happened 100 years ago. So, you know, and you know, there was the Spanish flu in 1918, and they didn't have Zoom and they didn't have smartphones. So it's an opportunity for us to get used to change. One of the things I'd recommend is that in your routine, even in your own self-confining home, there are ways to change your routine. You know, switch things up a little bit. Switch the order. You know, eat dessert first. You know, what's wrong with that? We really need to get used.
I like that.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. You know,
I'll do that.
I'm afraid if I did that, I would just eat dessert and dessert and dessert, and the meal.
And I'm afraid of that too, Jeffrey.
Time to face our fears. So get used to change. It's really, really, really important that we, you know, here it is. The people that are adapting to this better are the ones that are more adaptable to change. And think about it from your kids' perspective. Okay, if you look at what happened in our lifetime, if you look at the change that we had in the years that we've been alive, one of the things that I've noticed, certainly in the last 10 years, things have changed faster than they did in the previous 10 years and in the previous 10 years. And if you follow that along, I think you would agree that the next 10 years is going to have a lot more change than the current 10 years, than the current decade. Well, how are we going to help our kids? How are we going to help our kids be adaptable to change? You know, our 10-year-old granddaughter starts texting at 7 o'clock in the morning. You know, she has this group called grandparents, and she's, pardon me, texting to both Lois and I. It's like at 10 years old, she's starting to text and have a conversation. And you say, well, where's everybody else in your family? They're still sleeping. Like, you know, we didn't have that 10 or 20 years ago. So adapting to change ourselves and teaching our kids to be able to adapt to change is a great opportunity.
And I agree. I agree with that. Well, it's interesting because I do believe that this time is going to change us all, and it's going to make us reflect. Like I know for myself, I am very fast paced, whether it's with my children, being with them, or my work. And I almost felt like I needed a lockdown to finally stop and reflect and realize, oh my goodness, I've been working too much.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and I've enjoyed, like in some ways, you know, I'm not saying I would want this, but I have really taken this on to see how amazing this feels. Mm-hmm. So when you say it's done for you, not to in many ways hurt you. And I said to a friend, I said, after this, even now, I will never answer a business text on weekends. Mm-hmm. It was something, that was it. I will never answer a business text on weekends. I will not answer a business text after 6 o'clock. And it took this for me to realize, oh, that was a very unhealthy way of living for me.
Right. Yeah. You know, that reminds me, I'm doing a series called One Day at a Time, and I'm going to be doing it for 19 days, mm-hmm. you know, based on COVID-19. And I've already got day 19. I think I'm at around day 15 or 16, but I know what I'm going to be saying on day 19. And day 19 is draft your commitment to change manifesto. Use this time to write down, these are my commitments to change, and make it your manifesto. Because I got to tell you, when this is over, if you don't have that written down, it's going to be so easy to pick up those bad habits. If you've got your personal commitment to manifesto, commitment to change manifesto, then what you're saying, okay, it's so important, Mary, that you write those things down. And in 6 months from now, when something is going on and you answer that text, you got to go back to your manifesto and say, whoa, I'm not going to fall into that trap again.
But it's interesting to see these like revelations that are coming up for people, or just kind of aha moments going, oh my goodness. And what we thought was so normal, what we did before, until everything stopped. Mm-hmm. And we had to look within.
I am so loving the opportunity for change. Doing these Zoom meetings, talked about it for a year, never did it. Zoom coaching, said, no, I'm not very comfortable doing Zoom coaching. You know, I don't want to sit at my desk. Well, guess what? There's a Zoom app on my smartphone. I've got a $29 tripod from Amazon. I sit on my couch and I get to coach just like I would if you were here in my sanctuary. So there is so much opportunity for change. I even, this last time that I channeled Shaltazar, I did it in a different way. I always used to channel journal channeling, and I've always been putting that off. Well, I sat down in front of my Zoom camera on the couch. I channeled a message. Okay, it wasn't as polished as I like. So I simply downloaded it, turned it into text, and re-recorded it. It's like, wow, yeah, maybe that feels better because there's just so much waiting to come out in us, and we are creating these blocks. And COVID-19 is the energy of great potential for change. If we can use this energy to do things differently, okay, then your life is going to change completely. So you have a choice, and that's one of the things that's important to realize, is we can easily slip into the energy of fear, and if we do, it will be heightened more than normal fear, or we could slip into the energy of opportunity and intuition and changes, and that will be heightened. Okay, I'm sure that you've realized, everyone on the call has realized, that when you get into that energy of creativity over the last 5 weeks, it's just like amazing, because it's like, where were those ideas before? They really, you know, so if you get into the positive energy, it's enhanced. If you get into the negative energy, it's enhanced as well.
No, that's interesting. That's really good. Does anyone have any questions for Jeffrey, or just want to throw a comment or something that you've noticed about yourself? We have about 15 minutes left. Anyone? Oh,
Mary.
Hi.
Okay. I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you for giving us of your time and expertise to do all of this. And I've known Mary for ages, and I just, she's become my idol. the girl that I was years ago, and I've just kind of gotten lost. But one of the things I did want to say that sort of ties along with this, but maybe is actually on the flip side. I came from being busy, and then we came to the standstill. And now I'm finding that day in and day out, I mean, our company is giving, Zoom calls. Small groups of us have divided and we're doing Zoom calls. I'm doing, Pete Vargas is doing 21 Days of Change. Our H.U.B group is doing so many. In other words, there's so many that are doing so many things, and I kind of feel like I want to be doing this, I want to do that, I don't want to miss out on any of it. And I'm just so afraid of getting back into that busy, and just wanting to figure out how do you kind of sift through everything and kind of make you the priority now, that we've been trying to strive to achieve, like yourself, like
That's a great
that
question.
makes sense.
No,
right?
great question.
That's a great question because it is easy to slip back into those old habits. Certainly, fear is going to make that easier to happen, believe it or not. So first of all, and it's interesting you talk about, because the longer this goes on, the more choices and opportunities, they're just different than they were when we were out and about. There are more people stepping up. Mary, you and I didn't do a call like this before, but now we're doing it. There are thousands of people all over the world stepping up with courses and online groups and all kinds of stuff like that. So it's just different choices than we had before. So we have to be careful not to slip into the old habit of just doing for the sake of doing. As you were talking, the first thing that popped into my mind is, are you taking time each day to reflect, to slow it down? I remember when I was first teaching people about meditation, I used the analogy of the race car driver, the Formula 500 race car driver. And when they had mechanical problems, they slowed down and they went into the pit. Okay. And you could not make those mechanical changes on the fly. So are you giving yourself the reflective time? You threw a lot of stuff out. There's this, there's that. I don't know. I'm afraid of this. Like, you have to slow down yourself and say, okay, today I'm going to meditate. I'm going to journal on my fear of going back to the way I was before, right? And then tomorrow I'm going to deal with, there's so much out there. How do I choose what is in my highest good? So we need to be able to, even whether we're in self-isolation or we're out in the world, it's how fast our brain is moving that's going to determine how calm and at peace and at harmony we are. And so many people, even though they're in self-isolation, they're busy watching. I mean, there's so many streaming options today. There's the internet, there's the entertainment. For an old guy, I've got this real dilemma. You find a good TV show or a movie, but is it on Apple? Is it on Netflix? Is it on Crave? I forget where it is, right? I mean, I used to go to my TV and I would just find it. And now there's all these choices. So we need to slow down. We need to reflect. And, that's where that idea that I suggested, the commitment to change manifesto. If you don't write down your commitments, if you don't focus on those intentions, okay? So what I would highly recommend is that anything you are afraid of getting back to when this is over, write down your intention not to, and that intention list should continue to grow depending on how long we're in this self-isolation. And every day review that intention list, not from a place of have to, need to, but simply from a place of, it is my intention that when this is over, I will, okay? Or I will not. It doesn't matter whether it's I will or I will not, but this is your commitment to change your life. You have to understand that the mind works on these neural pathways that are very much habit, and they're very much ingrained. And if we want to change those neural pathways, it requires new experiences to create that new neural pathway. So that's why we need to every day look at our intention list and say, okay, without fear, say it with confidence, I will be doing this when this is over. I will not be sending text, or I will not be doing this on the weekend. Okay. We need to create that new neural pathway so that we're remembering our commitment. And it's a personal commitment. It's just a personal commitment. And if you fall off a little bit, and if you've made a list of 20 things and you're able to put 10 or 15 into practice, love yourself for not doing the others, re-examine it a little bit, and try again. Maybe it was a great commitment, but the time wasn't right. Okay. But the big issue for you that I would highly encourage you to consider is slow down that mind, because even though we're in self-isolation, often the mind is still moving at the same pace it was when we were out and about in society. So that's a personal thing. We've got to slow it down. You can do meditation. You can do whatever you want. I mean, I'm a big fan of sound, and so I've watched myself move more to crystal bowl sound, and every day I'm listening to crystal bowls, right? But I'm also noticing that I'm not slowing down. I'm still doing on my computer when I'm listening to that sound. So I made a commitment that I'm going to take some time and listen only and not be doing other things. So you want to be catching yourself in your commitments, if that makes sense. And just one day at a time, try to bring in things that will change your life.
Thank you.
Can I say something about that?
Absolutely, Camilla.
Good morning, Mary, Jeffrey. Wonderful to meet you.
Nice to have you.
So, just a comment as I'm hearing, I'm actually quite enjoying this self-isolation business. I haven't seen much of a change in my life, and only because I've put into practice a lot of the things that most people are starting to go into today. And so just drawing upon, the questions that have come up, to me, that's, well, what came up for me years ago, like working on the weekends and after 6 was a fear of missing out, a fear of not having enough, a fear of, having to catch up, be more, do more. And so when I put a stop to that and starting to live in a world of abundance, I started to create differently. And so, the only change I've seen for myself, obviously, like you, Jeffrey, as well, has been just more online, right? Is just connecting with people through Zoom. But the abundance that's come out of that is incredible. So the only major change, which, okay, it's a major change, instead of driving my kids around, I have now found time to use that for creative. But the routine, the schedule hasn't changed for me. All of that, it's just been such a great time. I'm going to miss this. I have to say it. I am going to miss reconnecting with family and friends. My friends and I have just started a few days ago. Some of you might be familiar with the 21 Days of Abundance meditation that Deepak Chopra is doing. And so as a collective consciousness, we started to put that together. That would never have come out of this. And so I feel blessed. I've been practicing gratitude journaling for over 3 years now. So to me, this has been a blessing. The other thing that's come out of this for me is, and I know, Jeffrey, you touched upon this, the conflict and people confronting and being confrontational. I think we need that. I really do. I think that as a community, as a society, we've been really complacent. I think sometimes we need to swing way to the other side to be able to find a balance of where we want to go. And I welcome those conversations, and I'm beginning to see how people think. And for me, quite honestly, it's a great filter. It's a great filter for me to see who I want to keep in my life and who I don't. I'm like the boiling pot. I'm bringing it all up to the surface. It's a good cleaning house. And I welcome that confrontation. I don't like the rudeness. I have to admit, I'm really, really disgusted by that. I've been attacked. I've been, bullied, I would say, online. And I'm quick to cut that off. And I don't enjoy that. But I'm beginning to see how people communicate in that fear. And so that's been a big learning curve for me, but I call it cleaning house. I'm beginning to see who I want to surround myself with and who I don't.
And that, you know what, that's a great point, Camilla. And I just want to say is, I think it's bringing for a lot of us, and I can agree, even to the surface. And when you said cleaning house, I've noticed that as well. Things that I would have put up with or certain people, and now it's like, it's just not going to happen. So, but something that you said, I just want to add, Jeffrey, and I'm going to send it over to you, is when you said, I'm going to miss this time. And I know Jeffrey well enough, so I'm going to pretend I'm Jeffrey for 1 second. Tell me how I do, Jeffrey. And is, why can't that be your new norm? Why miss it? Why not bring it into your life as you move forward? So if you love these conversations and connecting with family, how can, because I know the same feeling, Camilla. So I'm like, how can I take it now forward with me if I like it? Why do I have to miss it?
No, and I've actually thought about that. So like, I have 2 kids in competitive sports, so we're running around a lot.
Yeah.
So we're reconnecting more at home. So the question's going to be, how do you transfer that reconnecting into the regular routine, which we were doing, but I would say now it's even more. So because they're doing their respective sports at home versus at a venue with other people. So you're right. That's a great reflection.
And that was my 10-second of Jeffrey, of what I've learned.
Thank you,
Jeffrey.
You did extremely well, because excellent, Mary, excellent. My belief is that we create by our feelings. So anything that you really feel great about during this time, just hold on to that feeling and ask the universe for more of it. So even when it transfers back to maybe the competitive sports, as long as that feeling is there. Sometimes we think that we need to do it the same way in order to get the same feeling. It's not really what you're doing, it's how you feel about what you're doing that's the most important. So I think that it's really important to hold on to what feels great. And for those people who are going through stuff that doesn't feel great, just make a mental note of, this is what I don't want in my life, because we learn by comparison. I often say, I know I love chocolate ice cream because there's vanilla ice cream. And if there was no vanilla, I wouldn't realize how much I really love chocolate. So there's nothing wrong with feeling things that are uncomfortable, because then you know that's not what you want more in your life. So if we can come out of this period of time knowing what we want more of, it's really important. I give this little exercise. If you can start a list, it's got 4 questions. What do I want to start doing that I have never done in my life before? What do I want to stop doing that I am currently doing in my life? What do I want to do more of that I enjoy doing? And what do I want to do less of? So it's a great opportunity to look at that shift, okay? And Camilla, yeah, I know you've got competitive sports, but you're going to have to decide how much competitive sports you want, because maybe we want to do less of that, maybe we want to do more of that. So looking at starting something that you've never done before, that you want to enjoy, that you think you will enjoy, stop doing what you're currently doing that's not serving your highest good. And then of course the other 2 are, what do I want to do more of, and what do I want to do less of? It's really, really important to be conscious and make conscious choices. I want to just make one final comment with what Camilla said. That's something that I've noticed, is the more work you've done on yourself, the easier this period is. So it's a wake-up call. And I think you will find that the people that are coping best are the ones that have been doing some work on themselves for a while. The people who are not coping very well are the ones that haven't done the work on yourself. So please wake up, everyone, and start doing some work on yourself.
Great. Can you, Jeffrey, that's amazing. Just for anyone who's writing down, I mean, these calls are recorded and will be on hubbinc.ca, and you can download them if you want. What are the 4 questions, just so we leave with making sure everyone has them?
Okay, so the 4 questions are, what do I want to start doing in my life that I've never done before? Okay, and where that comes from is, if you really have always dreamed of doing something and you never have, you commit to, what do I want to start doing that I've never done before? Okay. The flip side of that question is, what do I want to stop doing that I'm currently doing? Mary, you said I'm not going to be texting on the business texting on the weekend. So you want to make that list of, these are the things that I'm currently doing. You know, I'm not going to snack before bed, whatever it is. Okay. Just put that list down as a commitment, right? And then the other two questions are, what am I going to do more of in my life? If there are things that bring you joy, instead of bitching and complaining, mark down, I want to go for more walks. I want to go for more bicycle rides. Okay. And then the last question is, what do I want to do less of? So it's really important. One summer, my wife and I, we wanted to make sure we had a great summer because I worked hard all summer because staff was off. We made a list of the things we wanted to do and how many times we wanted to do them. And we fulfilled that list, and it was a great summer. Even though I had to work all the time, we still fulfilled it. So making these lists and checking on them is really a great reminder.
Okay, perfect. Jeffrey, once again, I want to thank you. I want to thank everyone who took the time to be on this call. And just so you know, we are going to be doing these calls like as long as we are in isolation, we're going to be supporting our community. So again, next Tuesday at 1 p.m. Sorry, 10. We have so many different calls. 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you know of anyone who needs support and would want to be on this call, please give them the link. Send them over to hubinc.ca so they can get the link so we can support as many people as possible during this time. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jeffrey, and be safe.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, everyone. And hopefully we'll see you all back next Tuesday.
Yes, take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.